It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's video graveyard for the Monday night. An absolute pleasure to be with you. Once again, it is time to celebrate some of our favourite movies because it is once again a guest choice special. And my very special guest joining me this evening, we are talking published model, pageant queen, a Jill of all trades. I am joined by Bella Trixx. Bella, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, how hard was it to narrow down your favourite films of all time to a list of 10?
Oh, extremely. As soon as I seen the word, the number 10, I was like, okay, this is going to take hours. Only because I'm much more a movie fanatic. I do love TV shows because you can binge watch them obviously a lot longer, but movies are a forte of mine. So.
Lovely. I'll put you on the spot. What are the TV shows that you fly a flag for?
Obviously, it's sort of like bipolar with my taste. I love things like Golden Girls. I love new shows like...
Wow,
yeah,
nice.
I love the old ones like Becca, Frasier, all those ones.
Oh, unfortunately, my co-host can't be here, but he would be so happy because led with Golden Girls, you're okay with me this evening.
I mean, I do understand, obviously, especially with the main actor being Kelsey Grammer. He has a bit of a history, and being a female... He's done a few things I don't particularly agree with, but back then with Frasier, it was a good show, and I watched Cheers, and I know that was a bit of a sort of a
it was the
sequel type thing,
kind of a prequel, I guess you'd say. It was a spin-off. I've got to say, anytime you have any issues with Kelsey Grammer, one thing I'll recommend, because I do it to my co-host constantly, go on YouTube. He was actually doing a speech engagement for Frasier. It was celebrating, the 10th season or whatever. And he actually falls off the stage by accident, and it's just so satisfying for me.
I'm sure Camille likes
so
that.
anytime you're upset, you just head on over to YouTube and look up Kelsey Grammer's stage fall.
I'll have to do that.
Lovely. Now, you've joined us this evening. It's a 2-hour show all about your favourite films of all time, and you in general. So, published model, pageant queen, you've done it all. I know, looking at me, you'd be surprised to find out that I'm neither a published model or a pageant queen.
No.
But I spoke to Blaze after your win last year, and I said, "Come on, next year, you know,
have me in it too."
Yeah, that's it. So you'll be
up on stage with us.
When the world gets better and we're back to pageants, you'll be defending your honour against me. We're friends for this evening.
I love a friendly competition. I do.
Friends for this evening. So, how often, are you constantly forcing your sons to watch your favourite movies from when you were younger, or do you watch new stuff together, or a bit of both?
Well, I tried originally because, obviously back when I was younger, we didn't have any of the Pixar animated Disney, collaborated movies. So for us, it was just Snow White and Beauty and the Beast, which were all made very, very long ago. So I did try to have them watch them, but obviously the graphics didn't quite capture their attention that much. But they do now obviously love the ones like Cars and all those sorts. But now that my 6-year-old is getting old enough, he actually loves movies like Matilda, The Little Rascals. So
greatest
all those,
films ever made.
The best sort of ones, like even Mrs. Doubtfire. He always chooses Edward Scissorhands. So I love that he now is at the age where he's starting to get more of a variety taste. And I can introduce him to the movies that you just don't get anymore. I mean, kids' movies these days, they're good, but I feel like the storylines back in the day, they were really good. So
Nice. Now, narrowing it down to 10, off the top of your head, putting you on the spot, can you think of anything that didn't make the 10 that if it was 20 would be in there? Are there any honourable mentions?
Oh God, that would I'd have to say, again, even from listening to the startup part where it came with Forrest Gump, I do love Forrest Gump, and it was on my original list because I was writing it down originally before I typed it up, and it did have Forrest Gump because I do love that in the storyline, but however, when I ended up writing the others, I was like, it just won't make the 10, so I have to cross it out. But I'd say Forrest Gump for sure.
I love it because in the lifetime of this show, perhaps we've had maybe 100 guest choice specials, and I've never done it myself. And so often halfway through the show, someone will be like, "Well, it was so hard to do. Why don't you make your 10?" I'm like, "Nope, that's not the point of this."
Nope. The question was asked.
That's it. It's not my guest choice special. So we have the quiz where we get to know our guest. Now, we will go through, as we always do, starting off, what was your local video store growing up? A thing of the past, of course, with the likes of streaming, but what was your local?
Well, without divulging that I'm too old. But
it was Netflix, wasn't it? It was Netflix.
But for me, I grew up in a time where there was no Netflix, no computers, no binge watching. We'd have a little box set TV, and with that we had a VHS player, and so we'd get to go to Blockbuster or Video Easy down the road, whatever's closest.
Yep.
And if your mum told you, we're going on a Friday night, you knew that was going to be the best weekend.
Yep.
And you'd either hire them, like the new releases would be for like the whole weekend. Normally you'd get late fees because you forget to return them. Or you could get the long ones. We'd pick like 7, and you could literally have them for an entire week.
$7 or 10 for 10.
Yeah. And obviously you always wanted the snacks when you're there, but they were quite expensive even back then. So your mum would always take you to Coles or Woolworths afterwards and get snacks, and those were the best times.
I even remember when my wife and I first moved to Adelaide, we'd go to like Video Easy and we'd walk out and I'd be like, why was that $60?
It's
with like barrels and barrels of chocolate and M&Ms and everything else.
Well, even back, obviously, before they had portion control size, they did have bigger ones there, and they were quite pricey. So it was one of those luxuries. But no, the best part was just walking through those aisles, and you never knew what to choose. Like before, on your way, you'd have all these different titles. I'm going to get this, and when they were all in your face, you're like, I don't know, there's just so much to choose from now. It's like a kid in a candy store.
And see, it's funny because I now collect VHS because I'm a weird old man like that. And it's so funny how many times, like I'll go to whether there's a sale on or there's a Facebook group selling VHSs, I'll see the cover of something that I've never seen, but I'll vividly remember seeing it on video in the store.
Yeah.
There was a few videos where the covers actually scared me, whether it be horror or not. I remember there was a comedy horror movie called The Ghoulies, and the front cover was a toilet bowl with 2 little monsters coming out of it.
They almost look like the Gremlin ones. Yes.
And to this day, I don't think I've seen the movie, but vividly remember the front cover of that VHS because it scared me so much.
Yeah, they are those movies. And you watch them when you're older and you're like, there was nothing to be scared of, especially with the graphics, but it's still, when you're a child, it looks bloody real.
Exactly. Now, if you were to build your own Mount Rushmore, so 4 faces, whether it be actors or actresses, who would be the 4 that would be going up on your mountain?
Okay, so I guess this was a tricky one, almost as tricky as choosing the 10 movies. My number 1, and he's quite controversial at the moment as well, Johnny Depp. And you'd have to choose him for the complete versatility of his acting ability and the fact
Pre-Pirates.
Yes. Well, it went a little bit down from there. But obviously, the fact that he did even play Grindelwald in the most recent Harry Potter movies, the fact that he can play Edward Scissorhands, he can go to a movie like Blow and play a completely different character, and ace everything, like even Secret Window. And I love that him and Tim Burton, because obviously I love Bellatrix, and I've got a mental blank at the moment. But her and Johnny Depp are always cast together, and movies like Sweeney Todd, like I love.
Oh, sorry, Helen Botham Carter.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that even movies like he can get into Willy Wonka and just do such a creepy sort of turn on it, and it was
so
great.
many people talk down about that movie. I think it's quite well done.
Considering like when you watch the first one, if you realise what Tim Burton's style is like, it is spot on to his style, which is why the new Alice in Wonderland was the style it was. It's more of a creepy, everything's distorted and contorted, and that is Tim Burton's vision. And he always chooses people like Johnny Depp that can literally just get into that character and the role and ace it.
And so many people have turned their back on Tim Burton now because of a lot of the films he's made. However, I'm always telling people, anyone that loves Edward Scissorhands or Beetlejuice needs to see Frankenweenie from like 2008. It is such an amazing Tim Burton film.
See, even me, I haven't seen that one, but Beetlejuice, I've actually done a photo shoot of Beetlejuice because I absolutely love that movie. And even Alec Baldwin back in his heyday.
We're only talking about him last week. How handsome and amazing he looked in Beetlejuice, and now he's just a fat dude in a suit.
Yeah, I mean, because I watched 30 Rock, and I love that show, and I love him in it with Tina Fey. And I always knew, obviously my mum always said that he was, such a hunk back in the day. And I was like, what are you talking about, Mum? He looks all right now, but look at him. And then I seen Beetlejuice, and I was like, all right, I see it now.
And I reckon it was just after Beetlejuice. He was in The Shadow, which was an early comic book movie. And he was such a buff leading man. And it's like, what happened?
I know. I mean, at least because obviously I love people like even the Wayans brothers and
Yep.
the Baldwin brothers. I love when it's like a family thing and they're almost just all as talented as each other.
Yep.
And you could only imagine how proud their parents would be just to know that they all just went into that field and just, made it.
Now, the next question, obviously before this year, so we'll pretend it's 2019. Where do you prefer to watch a movie, at home or at the cinemas?
Definitely home. I mean, even from like, I guess, teenage years. From teenage years, I'd have to say I preferred home only because it was more comfortable. Like, you can't pause a cinema screen. Like, if you need to go to the toilet or something.
You do not have to put pants on to watch a movie at home.
Exactly. And if it's hot, that's the best time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just definitely home for the comfortability and the freedom of being able to just go get snacks and not pay $100 for them.
Nice. When you do go to the cinema, speaking of expensive snacks, what is your snack of choice?
Choc Top.
Wow, nice.
Definitely.
I
love the fact that they've kept them around after all these years.
I am loving, though, every time this question comes up, it's always the classics.
It's
like, because I'm a Skittles guy.
Things, and they've kept certain, original things that you remember getting when you were a child, but it's just not as much of a variety. So, but
I might as well change that question to popcorn or Choc Top, because that's the answer.
That was a debate for me as well, because if it's full, fresh, buttered popcorn, because there's nothing like walking past a cinema and you smell that smell like popcorn. So I don't know if I could do both. Best of both worlds.
Because my eldest son decided to try, he heard somewhere, the pour Maltesers into hot popcorn. And we did that. And I've got to say, it's amazing. However, you come out and you're like, what have I done? I've killed a mud monster I haven't wiped properly because it does not look good.
Yeah, I wonder what the service would be thinking.
Just telling everyone, it's okay, it's poo. It's poo, it's okay.
I just have a baby.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Which film that didn't get a sequel deserves one?
See, this was another tricky one for me as well, only because I'm always a fan of the first movies. Like, say, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Wrong Turn. I love the first ones, but when they did the sequels, they never really lived up to it. So I feel like, there's been a couple of sequels out there that are good, but personally for me, I actually like to just rewatch the first movie over and over again. Yeah. So I can't really pick a movie.
Now, not spoiling too much from your list, but you've just mentioned I Know What You Did Last Summer and those movies. Do you love Cabin in the Woods?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do love those sorts of ones.
Even
like ones like Blair Witch Project. Like even like these days if it was, made with these sorts of graphics, it'd be even more like scary and stuff. But I remember watching that when I was young, and that scared the crap out of me. So,
100%.
I do love those sorts of mind teaser ones.
Nice. If you could have one of the following, I already know the answer. Which would you choose? Comedy, horror, or drama?
Horror and thriller, gore, the more the better. For me, if it looks like red paint, I'll get embarrassed for the producers. But if it literally looks like someone's being gutted and the guts coming out and it looks like a fool, they've done it good.
Nice. Nice. In your biopic, who would play you? In the Bellatrix film, who are you casting to play you?
See, I mean, I guess in her hate, because I love... I personally, I guess for actresses, I generally love more comedian style ones. But when it comes to horror, I do love even people like Melissa George. I love her because she's an Australian actress.
Yep.
And she represented.
Good old Angel.
Yeah, and I feel I don't know, her or I guess.
I personally, if I was casting for you, I'd need a time machine and I'd go back to 1999 and get Kylie Minogue at the peak of her attractiveness, bring her back and put her there because she's got the accent. So, yeah.
I like that choice.
Nice. And what would be the main song in your biopic?
I'd probably say Bittersweet Symphony.
Yep.
Only because more that's sort of like the song of my life. I've always listened to it. I'll thrash it still now. Did it when I was a child, but it's just I've always related to the lyrics. And
do you know the story behind that? The string section in the background?
Yes.
That's taken from a Rolling Stones song, but it's only about 2 seconds, not even that, of a Rolling Stones song. there was the record company like last year or the year before actually sued, and they had to pay out all this money to the Rolling Stones, and it's so not fair because it's not even the hook, it's just the
2 seconds worth. Oh god! I mean, at least they didn't take the song away, because that would be horrible.
Well, the other thing being is it wasn't the band have gone on record, like Rolling Stones have gone and said it's not us, it's our record company, we don't get a say in that kind of thing. It's like, well, do something about it. But now if you look, they've actually got songwriting credits of that song.
Well, that's good then. At least they're not going to get any more trouble.
That's it. Which movie, obviously you are a massive horror fan, but which movie freaked you out as a child?
See, for me, it's not really a horror movie. And this is where, I guess, because my horror and love for horror movies came from watching them with my mum when I was younger. And so I just used to sit in her bed at night and she'd have her movie on and I'd pretend to be asleep and just stay up and watch the movie. But there was always it was an Australian-made movie. I can never remember the name or anything, but there was just this one scene, like I actually just remember when my mum would put it on, I'd feel physically sick afterwards watching it and it would give me nightmares. And it was just, I don't even really know the context of why it made me scared, but I just remember this scene. It was a country girl. She was just living out in the country town and she'd moved to a new one, and there was this guy that was just picking on her, and he was always like going after her and she was refusing the advances. And one night he had her in his car and they were in the back, and the car was like full on just going down a dirt road, as you can imagine the Australian outback to be. And he just opens the car door as the car's moving and he just kicks her straight out. She goes rolling straight down this hill and ultimately she dies. And it just became this big thing in the town of who did it, and he ended up trying to skip town. I don't know, it's just something about that one movie has always just stuck with me. And I've never known why, but yeah, it just always did, and could never pinpoint exactly what it was.
It is funny though, the things that stick with you from a kid. I don't even know what the movie was. I just remember a movie where girl and a guy are on a date, and he gives her a necklace. And they're sitting on the side of a pond, and the necklace falls off into the pond, and he reaches in and is trying to find it, and something grabs him and pulls him into the water. I don't even know what the movie is, and I didn't watch any more because of how much that scared me. And I never went back to that film because it was so terrible.
It's just certain ones you've got to skip past. Like,
if you could pick one of your childhood favourite shows or movies to be rebooted now, what would it be?
Golden Girls.
Nice.
100%. The sad thing is only Betty White's the only one left still standing, is Estelle Getty, Rue McCallum, and Beata.
It would be great if Rose came back and she was like living in a home and they replaced the other three.
I think that's where like a show like Hot in Cleveland normally wouldn't have been a show that I normally would have liked, but the fact it almost was like she just got a new pack and she was the leader. And obviously normally with Golden Girls, Sophia and Dorothy were normally there with the hard ones, but then to see Betty White just like cracking those jokes just like they would have Sophia would have in Golden Girls, it was I did love that show.
It is so I didn't even know what it meant at the time, but I just knew I was attracted to Blanche when I was a little boy.
Yeah, she's
so overtly sexual for a sitcom about old retirees. It's quite funny how much it awakens. It's funny
because she actually doesn't have the accent, and Betty White actually auditioned to play the role of Blanche.
Wow.
Because she had originally been playing just before that a bit of a promiscuous role, and so she'd gone in there, but obviously Rue just went in, and when she did her audition, she just burst out with this southern accent all of a sudden. And it just stuck, and that was just Blanche from the Southern Belle that never divulged her true age.
That's so funny because watching, we've got a podcast version of this show, and I was watching Starship Troopers last year, and Blanche is one of the teachers in Starship Troopers, and it's mind blowing to find that. I think it's Rue McClanahan or whatever.
Rue McCallum or
That's
McCallaghan.
Okay, if you could drive one vehicle from any movie. It could be the Time Machine from Back to the Future. Could be the Batmobile. Could be Beetlejuice's weird car.
Yeah.
What would you drive?
I mean, when I was thinking about this, I didn't even think about that Time Machine car. That'd be pretty handy, especially in this bloody 2020 COVID year. I'd rather go back to last year.
Yeah.
Or fast forward. But I don't know. I guess being a female, I'm not going to lie. Not being a stigma or anything, but I'm not immensely into cars, but I do remember I'm not a massive fan of all the Fast and the Furious movies. I sort of just stopped after the second, and I was like, yeah, that's good for me.
That's enough.
But in the first,
you know they're going to space in the next one, so you need to catch up.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ, it's gonna go. I'm glad I stopped that. But no, there was always obviously that Skyline that Paul Walker drove.
Yes,
I always just remembered that, and I was like, I want that car.
Nice. I remember like the second one they're in Miami and they painted it like purple and orange, and it's like, what are you doing?
No, they ruined it.
Right. If you could take your favorite fictional character out of a film and put them in another film to make it better or worse, who would you pick and what would the film be?
See, again, this was a tricky one. I figured for this because it'd be more difficult to do it, I guess, from a horror movie, because some horror movies, like even Freddy and Jason, they've already collaborated them and things like that. So I went with comedy, and I figured because I love things like people like Deadpool, like being there, you know, I love comics and all things like that. So I love, and even like Will Ferrell, I love any movie he's in. I figure is the best. So if Deadpool went into The Other Guys, I feel like that would be hilarious. Or like Pineapple Express or something like that. Just like an action movie, but chuck Deadpool in with his like, you know, comedy side. It would, be quite a funny movie.
I would watch it because you've ticked all the buttons. You've hit Will Ferrell and Deadpool, and I love The Other Guys so very much.
It'd be perfect.
All right. And which actor or actress, if you had a VHS tape of just them, would you wear out the tape? I'm talking, you put it in, you press play, and it just looks like a heap of barcodes dancing.
See, that's... I mean, there are quite a few, and I guess...
Because this was inspired by... I recently found my childhood copy of From Dusk Till Dawn and started watching it, and it gets to Selma Hayek's dance, and the whole thing is so worn out. I don't know what. I just like dance. I love dancing. So
see, for me, I mean, my most favorite scene of any sort of movie, and it is one of my favorite top 10 movies, but I don't know if it... I think being that it was made in 2005, I don't know if it would have been on VHS, but there's just this one scene in the Amityville Horror where Ryan Reynolds thinks that the daughter is out in the boathouse. So he jumps into the water and he gets out, and the moonlight's just glistening on his like wet body, and it's just dripping down. And I just remember I could literally just replay that.
It's funny because at that point everyone's like, it's Van Wilder or Two Guys and a Girl. The dude from 2000 Girl, and he was like, "No, I got a rig now. I'm an action star."
He didn't go overboard. That's what I think I love most about his physique is it's just the perfect shape. Because some actors, they obviously thought, you know, they got big for a role and then just went bigger and bigger and bigger. He just went to a certain size and was like, yep, that's...
Did you agree to come here tonight because of my spitting image, same body as Ryan? That's it, isn't it?
I'm not going to lie.
I knew it.
I got
Anyway, let's jump into the music. We are going to go through your favourite films of all time. And don't forget, everyone listening can join in by jumping on our social media, whether it be Dave's Video Graveyard on WOWFM on Instagram or Facebook. Let us know how we're going. Let us know about the choices, or simply just let us know what you're up to. This is 100.5 WOWFM. It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard. We are travelling back to the year 1999, a famously favourite year of mine when it comes to film. We are talking about the film that was made for $10 million, went on to make $76 million and spawned 2 sequels. It's also the film that convinced me that Ryan Philippe was going to be the most famous actor on earth. It didn't pan out. Bellatrix, why did you pick this film?
For me, I chose Cruel Intentions because obviously I remember watching it growing up, and it always seemed very naughty for me as a child to be watching it, but I still loved it all the same, and I was like, Mum, let me watch it. But I also had a massive crush on Ryan Philippe. I did love him back then. It obviously, even the opening songs and the songs they use in it, like using like Placebo and The Verve, I absolutely, like, it got me into their music, introduced me to them. And even like Bittersweet Symphony, that particular song, obviously, like, you know, after he's died, and it's going into the funeral and it's showing all those sorts of things. I absolutely love that scene when it's playing, and, you know, she just walks out and drops her books and the whole school's staring at her. And
because the whole movie she keeps talking about turning to God, and turning
and
to Jesus, and it says that's a Coke spoon. Yeah. Oh man, I remember this movie came out when I was in high school. And it was the perfect conduit to talk to girls about movies because, you know, all these rom-coms that come out and none of us guys would bother going and seeing them. We refused. We'd hang outside the cinema while the girls were all seeing them and wait for the girls to come out. However, this was the middle ground where we're like, this is cool and edgy. It's rude and naughty. It is such a rude movie.
Everything.
And I don't know anyone our age, well, my age more so, because you're a youngin'. I don't know anyone that didn't see this movie in late 99.
And at least, especially because obviously you said there were the two after ones.
Yeah,
and the
I did not
one was
know
like
that.
A remake. But I didn't, obviously, again, with my sequel thing, I didn't like that. I was like, no, I would have preferred if you just kept the same characters from the first one and just show me a little bit maybe of what happened after. But the third one... That one, with the storyline, I'd say that was a well more risky storyline with the fact of that it included things like, you know, rape and all those sorts of things. So it was very...
It was so gritty for what it was.
Very, very... I was not expecting it. And, you know, I have watched it because I own the box set. I was bought that once. But I again, just went back to the first one and just watched it over and over.
One thing I'm finding so funny, I'm just looking into the director and... Obviously, he wrote this and the second one that came out the following year. He also directed both of them. He also directed the 2005 Ryan Reynolds film Just Friends. Have you seen that?
I love that.
It's where he's fat at the start, loses all the weight, and then comes back, but he's still a loser to the girl he's in love with.
Dusty.
That's such a different style of movie, though, than Cruel Intentions.
Yeah, I mean... I guess that shows talent to those sorts of writers. Like, they can go just to write completely and produce different things.
But 99 was one of those real gritty... We got, you know, The Matrix. We got Fight Club. We got this. And all the movies were like American Psycho. We felt... They felt dangerous. Do you know what I mean?
American
it was like,
Beauty.
Yeah. We're watching these movies that are like really naughty and really teaching us something. And it's, like you said, all the adult themes that are featured in Cruel Intentions. At the time, I was like, wow, this movie's telling something. Yeah. But you watch it back now and you're like, no, this just wanted to get new. Like, you know, this wanted to cause a stir.
It was literally like, even obviously, like, when you watch it back now and you see that it's essentially a sister is trying to make a deal to have sex with her brother and all this, like, it's funny that the storyline is like, I still love it. Like,
and I love the way it's parodied in Not Another Teen Movie. Like, I think it's done perfectly.
I do love when they've chosen those ones, like Scream and obviously Scary Movie. And
oh, how good is that? Yeah. How often do you revisit Cruel Intentions? Is it one that you quite often?
Quite often, yes. Yep. It's one of those movies that I can put on and I'll literally fall asleep to it because I can literally just turn over and I can hear it and just picture the scenes in my head.
And for a peek behind the curtain to everyone listening, there was not one word spoken in the trailer that you didn't lip sing along with. And I was like, wow,
I'm one of those
you're that guy.
If I sit with people and watch it, I do have to put my hand over my mouth. Because there's just so many, like, you know, I guess quotes and bits that from that movie that I absolutely love. And it did inspire my eldest son's name, Sebastian.
Lovely.
So I love, like, the moment where she's like, Sebastian! When my eldest son hears that, he comes running in because he thinks it's me having called him. I'm like, no, it's the movie. It was just like, it's okay, don't watch this part. Like, you don't need to see that.
It's so funny. And, like, it's also sadly a thing of how much I'm aging when you see, like, Sarah Michelle Gellar now playing people's mums in stuff. Obviously, Selma Blair's health has taken a bit of a unfortunate turn, but it's just... Even Ryan Philippe is like, he would play a dad in a movie now. It's like,
and the fact that, like, him and Reese Witherspoon were... I don't know if they were married in that movie already, or if they were together.
This,
but obviously they've had kids and stuff. They've split now, but...
Because he's with the brunette from Pitch Perfect.
I
cannot think of her name, but... I'd know her to look at a photo of her on the internet.
She's in that new series on Stan. Oh, it's going to kill me.
We'll figure it out, I'm sure.
We'll figure it.
Awesome. Well, that is your first choice here on DVG. Don't forget you can join in the conversation on our social media. Speaking of social media, be sure to check out Bellatrix. Amazing work online. Where's the best place to find you?
I'd say my Instagram is where my best stuff gets posted. The only thing is, because it's at the official Bellatrix, but it has 2 eyes, only because I've lost a few accounts.
Making the poster for this evening's show, I always spell check via social media. I'm like, I think I've spelled it wrong.
Yeah. A few like places, and it's nothing against that because obviously you just automatically, your brain does it. But I've had to just put that extra I in just because, Instagram's sensitive and the Bellatrix is a little bit shadow banned.
Well, funny you should say that because I tried to boost the post, the poster of you appearing on this show, and Facebook said, nope. Yep. I was like, okay, fair enough. Save me some money.
That's it, yeah. I definitely, even when it comes to like, that's where I do have a Bellatrix page on Facebook and I can post things on there, but it's more risky to do that because obviously they're both owned by Facebook, Instagram and Facebook, but essentially you can get away with a little bit more on Instagram and, just sort of advertise yourself a little bit more freely. So without those getting that post of like, nope, you've included one word we don't like, or like.
I pride myself on those because like we'll post an episode of our podcast and I'll be like, check out this movie, blah, 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 blah. It's like, we found 13 words that we're not going to let you use. I'm like, all right, I won't post it then.
I once tried to post just it wasn't even the whole song. It was just like the bridge of the song. But Kim by Eminem.
Yep.
I tried to post a little bit of that. Facebook didn't like that. So I was like, okay, no, we're okay there.
And it's funny because on our social media, we like to post like a lot of nostalgic videos. So we do a lot of old commercials, a lot of old stuff. And it's so weird the things that we get like not reported but picked up copyright strike for. Like the last one was the Are You Afraid of the Dark intro. The kids show Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was like a horror anthology for kids.
I'm trying to think. Was it on ABC?
It was on ABC on a Sunday morning and it started off and they go, this is for the consideration of the Midnight Society or whatever. And they'd each tell a scary story. It was basically like Goosebumps, the TV show, but not Goosebumps.
I mean, I remember one similar to it where it was like either made out of clay or just like a very like cartoonish animated, and it would go up to this like scary house and I had this old man. It was all these different stories each time.
Oh yeah, that's the storyteller.
Yeah,
Jim Henson's storyteller.
Yeah.
That is, we post that as well. No copyright strike. Let's get back into the music here on DVG. It is 100.5 WOW FM. A quick shout out to everyone's favourite Stick, Strings and Stories host here on WOW FM. He's done some in-studio work and everything is working fantastically. So shout out to him for all his great work. Now we are joined by Bellatrix, the published model / pageant queen. I'm coming for your crown next year, so enjoy it while you can.
I'll be prepared.
We are talking about your 10 favourite movies of all time, and we are travelling back, not that far back, but if you think about it, it really is that far back. 2005, a remake. The world was remake crazy. You had Spielberg out there doing War of the Worlds, and all these big movies were getting remade. However, Andrew Douglas, the director, decided that he would get Ryan Reynolds and Melissa George, Angel. He didn't invite Shane, but he got Angel to come along and decided to remake the Amityville Horror. And I think he managed to make a movie that was just as effective as the original, if not more so, because it visually looks better and it's just got more of a sense of dread the whole way through the movie. Produced by Michael Bay. It's Michael Bay was doing a lot of those, so he did like Texas Chainsaw as well as the Friday the 13th remake. However, the Amityville Horror. Bellatrix, why did you pick this film?
This one, obviously, again, I love Ryan Reynolds. Obviously, as I stated earlier, that scene of him coming out of the water is a very lovely scene. But the movie itself, I truly love movies that are based on true crime stories. And obviously, the Amityville Horror does actually have a true crime story based behind it. So after I watched that one, I obviously went and did my own research and seen exactly what was real, what was embellished, and I just absolutely loved it because it has a very, very fascinating story to the first family that was killed in the house. Being how it was done, what it was done with, how they were all found, and just it's sort of supernatural a little bit, and it sort of makes you question, like, and doing burial grounds and all those sorts of things.
All about the Lutz family living on Ocean Avenue back in the day.
Yeah.
And to look right into it, basically the entire household were murdered with a shotgun and no one woke up.
Yep. And even with the first family, the most fascinating part for me, because this is obviously what really happened, and this is what they based that movie on, because obviously the family that moved in afterwards, so that they encountered similar things that happened to the original family. With the original family, the son obviously killed his mum, his dad, 2 sisters, and 2 brothers. 2 brothers being in the same room. The sister was at the very top, and the mum and dad in the same room as well. They were all on different floors. It was raining, and obviously, it's loud, obviously, when it rains. But the fact that the son was able to go, because he was staying in the basement, from the basement, from floor to floor to floor, shooting not only just one bullet from a shotgun, multiple, all into their heads, and they were all found face down, with no disturbance to the bodies or anything like that.
It's so weird as you're saying this. You've grown a lab coat.
Yes, it's fascinating to me. I truly, I guess that's because obviously true crime and all, the forensics and everything just really, really have always fascinated me. So that's why I love looking into what really happened.
What are some of your favourite true crime stories of all time?
Oh, well, I guess there's I'm always, I guess, it's hard for me to say because I love so many different ones. However, I do know that I'm not necessarily a fan of the serial killers themselves.
Yeah,
it's fascinating what they've done, but I always feel bad for the families and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Generations after that they would have lost. But people even going back to Jack the Ripper, ones like that.
Right.
Just very classic ones, but also I love listening to murder podcasts.
As do I, yep. So what are some of your favourites?
One of a recent one that's she's been doing them for a while, but recently gotten notice during COVID when everyone had time to watch. But Bailey Sarian, she actually has a YouTube channel, and she does her makeup while she's talking about true crime.
Yes, of course, because her face was memed as the not interested one.
Yes, because she's like, nay, I say it, all those things. And I was just like, oh my God, I love her. But Ellen O'Neill, I love her as well. I'm trying to think. She collaborated with.
I like the really trashy ones. So I'm I'm a last podcast on the left kind of person. I do enjoy Case File, the Aussie one.
Yes.
I don't know if you got into that, but my favorite true crime story overall, just because it fascinates me, has to be Jim Jones. So it's just I can't get people to listen to my radio show. The amount of things he got people to do, it's just insane.
People like even Dennis Nielsen.
Yep. I was actually going to ask. David Tennant from Doctor Who has a new series. It's either on Amazon Prime or Stan.
It's coming out on Stan tomorrow. I'm very, very keen for it.
I was only reading about it this morning.
Because
I was like, I'm all for it because he actually looks like him in the trailer.
Very much so. And they've obviously done it justice just from even watching that trailer. I was like, yes. And just the fact that obviously, he had a fascination with wanting to keep the skulls and things, and
and flush everything else down the drain.
I think the most fascinating part for me in finding out that one of his actual victims, he drilled a hole into their head and poured acid in it, and they actually woke up and just said that they had a headache. Yeah. And he ended up killing them anyway. But his ultimate thing was he wanted to create a human that was alive, but they had no control over the body.
Exactly like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah. So it was just, crazy. So
good times. Well, what a fun time. However, you've gone with the Amityville Horror. I remember vividly going to see this the night it opened in my hometown with my wife, and we just first started dating, and we slept with the lights on. It was much like you get the cinemas here that close in the shopping centres, and you can just walk out but can't get back in. The guy that worked at the ticket booth obviously decided he was going to go home and come back later and lock up. So the movie finished. We come out, all the lights are dimmed still. They didn't put the lights up. The whole cinema's deserted. And we decided to park around the other side of the block from the cinemas. And we ran back to the car. And that night was the biggest, windiest storm ever. And it was still to this day. And as a joke, she bought it for me the following year for Valentine's Day on DVD, which I still watch just because we were both petrified. One of the most underrated performances ever of Ryan Reynolds. Everyone thinks he's fantastic as Deadpool and the quippy, fast-talking guy.
Yeah.
In this, he's just... He's the typical stepdad.
He's purely psychotic, and he did it from the fact of he you could literally watch from the beginning of the movie to the end him morph.
Yes.
Which is obviously what was meant to have happened in the true crime, was that the spirits, I guess you could say, overtook him over time. So he went from being that bubbly new stepdad to the kids to just, darkening over time and then just staring at walls. And, then he obviously kills the dog, and then it just goes on from there.
The scene in this where he makes the son hold the
wood
while he chops it is such. If you don't think Ryan Reynolds,
why are you crying?
Yeah, if you don't think Ryan Reynolds can act, I tell anyone to go and watch that scene online. I can't remember which Amityville Horror it is, but when I was younger, I watched maybe the second or third film, and there was just this bit that always stuck with me because it was quite an effective bit of horror. The family go out in a rowboat and they're like having a picnic or fun, and the daughter comes back and the mother sees her and she's all soaking wet and stuff. She walks into the house. The mum's like, "What's wrong?" And she won't answer her, and she walks up to her room, goes up into her bedroom, shuts the door and locks it. And the mum's like, "What's wrong? What happened? Tell me what happened." With that, she looks outside and the boat pulls back in, and the family lift the daughter that had just come back in the house out because she'd actually drowned. And so, I know, it is...
See, I haven't watched any of the ones, I've watched the original make of it, and I do like that one as well.
There's just no eye candy in it, though. So.
But then, obviously, I haven't watched any after the 2005 make, so that I'll have to perhaps watch that one.
But this movie made $80 million. Yeah. It was really effective. It's just...
There's certain scenes, even for me, the very first time I watched it, which is what made me, it might sound a bit sadistic, but when she made the babysitter stick her finger in the little girl's head, and she's like, she was bad. And I just love things like that because it was just such a shocking factor of a little kid did it. When they use kids to do things, that's just scary.
I was going to say, any movie where the kids are getting haunted...
Well, because I've got two kids as well. If my son came to me saying there's a little girl talking to me and found a teddy bear, and some priest told me that girl was buried with a teddy bear, I'd be like, "We're moving, son. That's it. Pack your shit."
The first house we lived in, we had a 3-bedroom house. It was just myself and my wife and my firstborn son. And one morning he's pointing up and giggling and giggling and giggling in his cot. And we moved his room that day.
I do not blame me. There's just so, because they, again, animals are apparently able to sense things that we can't. And I'll leave that to them. They're my little Ghostbusters.
Terrifying. Now, you haven't got many other true crime films on your list. A lot of horror.
Yes.
What are are there any other ones that stick out strongly to you? I did enjoy the Hawkeye. Jeremy Renner's version of Dharma is a pretty good movie. And the mini-series with Taylor Kitsch on Waco was a really fascinating story as well. What did you think of the Zac Efron extremely wicked and vile? Did you see that one, the Bundy movie?
I mean, actually, yes, I did see that Ted Bundy one.
It was just about him at court.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
I was just thinking at the moment, most of them have been made into TV series, and so the assassination of Versace, that was a fascinating one to watch. That guy and what he did, and the murderous rampage that he went on before killing Versace. But a lot of them have been TV shows that I've been watching lately, and obviously Dirty John.
Yes.
I loved that story. It was, and then I had to do my normal thing. I watched the Real podcast to know exactly what happened, and they actually pretty much point on point got Dirty John exactly the way he was, who he was and how he presented himself to other people, what he did, and exactly how the daughter in the end ended up killing him. It was all exactly how it happened, and even the second part to that is obviously the Betty Broderick case. Which is also another true crime one, which is obviously back in the day, the laws generally favoured the fathers in court, divorce court and family court, and she was just, I guess, she's known as a scorned woman, but she sort of just lost the plot and she just went right over the edge, and obviously ultimately ended up killing her ex-husband and his new wife. And for me, even just watching that, when I looked up what really happened, and they play some of the real phone calls that she was, because she'd call up and leave very, very explicit voice messages on their machine, and he actually, because he was paying her alimony, he was saying, you're going to get docked. Every swear word you use, I'm going to take money out. And she ended up having to owe him money because she just couldn't stop herself. And so, yeah, I guess I can't really pinpoint a movie, but I'd have to say more TV shows lately have been very based on true crime things.
Yep. Well, let's play another song and we'll get back into the movies. This is 100.5 WOW FM. You are listening to the guest choice special of one Bellatrix. We are talking all about our favourite movies of all time, and it's time to travel back to 1990 to the made-for-TV miniseries based on the Stephen King property. We are talking about one of Tim Curry's most iconic roles. You have chosen it. Why did you pick this show?
It was one of the first, I guess, scary movies that my mum introduced me to because she loved Stephen King and his books, so she obviously watched his movies after. And I'm not going to lie, as I'm sure most people could agree, it made me scared of clowns afterwards.
Yep.
But I was happy for that because I wasn't particularly a massive fan in the first place. But no, I really loved... I don't know, even though it wasn't too gory, it was just scary.
Yeah.
Like, even for a child. And I can still watch it now, and I don't get scared anymore, but I still feel that same suspense a little bit that I did when I was younger, and I was like, I know what's going to happen.
It was a great time back, like, in the 80s and 90s where you could have child characters that genuinely felt like they were in danger.
Yeah.
And that's such a rare thing now in movies, particularly scary movies, that it was just... because you could watch it as a kid and put yourself in those shoes.
Yeah. Well, even the bullying, you always remember that scene where, you know, they're about to cut his stomach and all those sorts of things. And, like, you picture it and it's like, oh, my God, you used to see that sort of, like, they obviously didn't have knives and stuff, but you'd see kids, like, scuffling at school and it's like, oh. But no, like, all those sorts of, obviously... we never really had joint showers, but even that shower scene where all the shower things come out and it comes up, like, you know, it scares you. So even when you're in that single shower at like camp or something, it's like, oh my God.
Obviously, Tim Curry is just so iconic as Pennywise.
He does.
I still think the remake was fantastic, however.
Yeah,
well, the first
I do like
part one, chapter one was amazing. Second one lost me a bit.
I haven't actually. I won't lie. I'm not completely finished watching the second one. I did put it
Forgivable.
on, yeah, but then I just sort of drifted off. And normally if that happens, it hasn't captured my attention enough for me to get really absorbed into it. But the first one was good. I did like that. I felt, obviously, I understood now they had to go a little bit more overboard with what Pennywise was in his monstrous form and stuff. But I sort of preferred the subtleness in the first one, of the first make, of he was just as scary. Like, he didn't have to change his outfit. He was just a clown in a yellow, you know, pants with the red baubles, and he was still petrifying.
Definitely.
So he did it, very well.
And it's funny, with a lot of Stephen King horror movies, quite often when they're adapted for film or TV or whatever, they get some bits right and some bits really wrong. The one thing I really liked about it was the coming-of-age story of a group of kids right in the smack bang middle of like a psychological horror film. And if you go back and watch the original like miniseries, I keep calling it a miniseries because it was like a 4-hour thing. You go back and watch that, and there's so many of the blueprints just used again for It Chapter 1 in 2018.
Yeah,
like it's so on point. A lot of the lines are the same. A lot of the stuff's the same. Special effects are a bit better in the newer one, but there's something that gives this a little bit of a... It timestamps it in the 80s, so it gives it an instant nostalgia, or 90s, should I say, early 90s.
Because you can just even remember the type of bike, like the tricycle with the wheel, and the squeaky wheel, and it's like, you know, it just takes you back to that time, whereas like in this day it'd just be like a sporty bike or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Are you a fan of any other Stephen King adaptations that you can think of?
Carrie. I love Carrie. Like, I'm not even going to lie, I'd recently watched the new remake of that. It wasn't too bad. I did actually like that.
I have heard that it's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's a good one. Christine.
I love that movie.
I'm trying to think.
I am a huge fan of The Mist. which has the best ending of a movie
The
ever.
Shining as well.
Shining is fantastic.
I watched that probably about 2 days ago.
Pet Sematary scared me so much.
I love that movie.
Aunt Zelda is scarier than anything else that happens in that entire film.
Well, I think for me, because I love Pet Sematary, but the bit that got me, obviously, even when the little kid's running around, he's so adorable, and he's got like the dad's scalpel, and he's about to kill his mum and stuff, and he's just got this like little murderous little laugh, but it's like, it's so cute but scary at the same time. And obviously when he goes into the neighbor's house and slits the neighbor's Achilles tendons, I was so scared for many years to even stand near my bed, because I didn't want someone to come cut my Achilles tendons.
The day I first saw the original Pet Sematary film is the last time that I watched The Munsters, because having the actor that played Herman Munster get his mouth and his... Because they're both the most... You can imagine the pain of an Achilles heel and the size of your mouth.
Well. They're very tender areas. And as they say, once you cut an Achilles tendon, that's your whole muscle cramping up. And you can all imagine how painful a cramp is. So...
I only recently saw a meme, and it's like 2 pictures of Judd, the character from Pet Sematary, and the first one says... that's the Pet Cemetery. You should never bury anything there. And it says 5 minutes later, well, I guess we better bury him in the Pet Cemetery. So he's the real bad guy of the film.
Yeah, he is.
No, awesome. Do you revisit it, or is it one that you've kind of kept back there, or you?
No, I watch it regularly. Even when the first part to the remake came out, it made me want to watch the first one again. And since then, I guess I'm a creature of comfort. So if I really like a movie, I'll tend to go back to it and watch it at least once a month, at least.
Awesome. Let's get back into the music as we continue through your list here on 100.5 WOW FM. It is 100.5 WOW FM, Dave's Video Graveyard, Bella Trixx's Guest Choice Special, talking all about our favourite films of all time. And it's time for me to get scared as a man, because Bella has picked, from 1991, winner of 6 Academy Awards, directed by Ridley Scott. We are talking about Thelma and Louise.
Yeah. I absolutely love this movie, and I'd watch it at least once a fortnight. Again, it was a movie my mum showed me. She was pretty much my movie buddy back in the day and showed me all the good classics. But I love Susan Sarandon. I absolutely love her.
I love her to this day.
Yeah, I think she's just the best. And obviously the storyline for obviously even when it was set, and back in those days, obviously women were meant to be housewives and stay at home, and the fact that they just rebelled and went on their little trip, and things did get out of hand, but obviously one man was in the wrong and he kind of had it coming to him, but then obviously it just sort of snowballed from there, and then it just came naturally to them to. And
it's touted as a very important film for women's empowerment, because it was the first time that they would just... It's funnily enough like a second Ridley Scott, because he did the original Alien movie as well with Sigourney Weaver, where such a powerful female character in that film. I've always had a soft spot for this film. Massive fan of both Gina Davis and Susan Sarandon. You get a super sleazy, attractive Brad Pitt in this one.
Yes.
I also, this is a movie that's perfectly cast. I'm not surprised that it won so many Oscars, because even having a mental blank, but Shooter McGavin as the husband.
Yes, and when he gets angry and stuff, it makes me laugh. Yeah. Because you see him in other roles.
It's also, the funny thing is, because I caught it on free-to-air TV recently again, and the thing that's not funny, but it just shows the time it was made. The amount of things that could be solved by mobile phones in this movie, because there's so many times they're rushing to get to the next thing so that they can pick up a landline phone and stuff.
Like these days, phone boxes are pretty much non-existent.
And I absolutely love when they blow up the fuel truck.
I also, again, I love that, and this is obviously why it was known for such a women empowerment movie, because obviously, women can be driving in a car, and just because they're in a car looking nice and stuff, a truck will drive past them and just start hitting on them and making obscene, comments and stuff. And obviously the fact that this particular guy is not an absolute pig, he just keeps going back and doing it, getting worse. And so when they do it, it's like the ultimate revenge. It's like, that's like, you shouldn't talk to women like that, because otherwise they might blow you up. You never know.
It takes a step almost down the true crime like path of like your Eileen Wuornos or something like that, like Monster. And it's like, well, it's like you kept messing with her.
Yeah, and it's like there's only so much like that you can poke a bear before that bear's going to attack. And that's, I guess, where that's a fine line of where prosecutors and defenders would have a hard time.
Neither job I'd like to do, but
it'd be hard.
How often do you revisit this one?
Again, pretty often. At least, once a fortnight, because I do.
Wow.
It's a comfort movie for me.
Remind me to never get into a convertible with you.
It is like, I guess that's one of the iconic scenes is, when they're looking at each other and they're like, yep, let's do this. Like, they could have turned around, but they had all these guns pointed at them. And one officer out of them was just saying, no, stop. But they just did it anyway. They just floored it.
And it was essentially, they made the decision we can never go back. Yeah. Like, this is
and
this is
if
our
you're
life
going to
now.
going out in the Grand Canyon, you might as well. Like, that's a nice way to just, if you're going to drive off a cliff, memorable one.
Nice. But yeah, Susan Sarandon, Gina Davis, also from Beetlejuice, obviously Gina Davis, but Susan Sarandon, I've never stopped loving everything she's in. She was in a movie with Sean Penn, who's a real life monster, Dead Man Walking. Have you seen that? He's basically a killer that's on death row, and she's the missionary that works with him, and it is grueling 1990s true crime movie. It is really, really gritty. And obviously, Gina Davis was in a lot of things. I was only talking about Gina Davis yesterday because she features in a movie, Cutthroat Island, that was one of the biggest flops in the 1990s. It was like a pirate. It was Pirates of the Caribbean before Pirates of the Caribbean. And it actually shut down a film company because it was so universally bad and it cost so much money. But yeah, it's good to see. They both pop up a lot in a lot of stuff still to this day. Not so much Gina Davis as much as Susan Sarandon. I've got a real soft spot. She was in the stupid Adam Sandler film, That's My Boy. And her real life daughter played her as a younger character and she played the older. I was like, that's beautiful.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, that's a fantastic choice. Let's jump into a little bit more music before we go to your next choice. This is DVG. It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard, Bellatrix's favourite 10 films of all time. And as you can hear from the music just there, it's time to talk about the Transformers films. No, we are talking about Harry Potter, something that I've been on the record as not being a fan of. However, it's about you, not about me. Why did you pick this specific Harry Potter?
Oh my god, specific? Harry Potter.
Pacific Ocean.
I know, like it's so hard. I can never get that. It's like a tongue twister for me. I chose this particular one because obviously the graphics in it are really good. By the time they got to this one, they had a lot of funding, and obviously it was a very big franchise, so they put a lot of effort into the movies.
It was an excuse to print money by this stage.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, I read all the books before the movies came out, and even for me,
you can read.
Yeah,
humble brag.
And for me, The Order of the Phoenix is probably the book I've read the most. It's my favorite. It's jam-packed with everything and the action, and obviously, it wouldn't be too much of a surprise to people that do know Harry Potter as to why my name is Bellatrix, because I love Bellatrix Lestrange. And I feel like she really made her outing in that movie, obviously killing her cousin Sirius, and her being her sadistical self. So, I just really loved that one. And obviously it's the first time where Voldemort and Dumbledore actually come face to face, and they have this fight in the Ministry of Magic at the end where even my eldest son now, he sometimes asks me to fast forward to that scene because he just loves, like, when Voldemort, he just waves his hands in the air and all the glass just goes smashing and flying around. I love it. Amazing.
I grew up a massive Star Wars nerd, and my dad used to accidentally get all the names wrong and stuff, and it used to irk me so much. But becoming a father, nothing has made me have more fun than do the same thing with Harry Potter to my sons. And I particularly, because he went as from the Creatures and Where to Find Them one.
Yeah, Magical Creatures and Where to
That's
Find Them.
it.
Yep.
He went as Newt Scamander to Book Week, and it was so good because I just kept going around introducing him. I'm like, this is Newton's Skylander. And I just get it a little bit off, and I just kept deliberately getting it wrong. But, man, these movies were juggernauts. They were just printing money. Obviously, J.K. Rowling has come out as not a friend of the LGBTQI community. But however, I even respect, like, Daniel Radcliffe. Everyone knew him as Harry Potter. He's made a fantastic transition into serious acting. I'm become a massive fan. He is in a movie called Swiss Army Man. Have you seen this movie?
I'm not sure about that one. I do remember one where he's walking dogs. And
I will sell you this film. He plays a dead body that washes up on an island, and the guy that's stuck on the island uses his body as a tool because the dead body won't stop farting. And so the movie starts with the guy riding Daniel Radcliffe like a water ski with his farts making it move. It is insane. This movie.
That's going whole opposite.
But I was going to say that is him showing the world I am not Harry Potter anymore.
Well, I mean, Harry Potter has always been known for quite a bit of a childish franchise, but even when it comes to some of the later movies, like even when Snape's killed, he's got Nagini, the big snake, slitting his throat with teeth, and there's blood splattering everywhere, and Voldemort's just killing anyone everywhere. And so even some of those like ones, I have to skip past some scenes just so that my son can watch it and be like, give it a few more years and I'll show you that bit.
One thing I actually really appreciated, because each movie is a year that they're at Hogwarts, and I actually appreciated the jump up in rating, because obviously they were older characters, so they dealt with older things. Yeah. And I thought that was a great way of doing it, because if they were to just say, PG across the board, you'd lose half of it. Like, the few times we watched it, my younger son was, like, terrified of, like, is it the Death Eaters and stuff like that?
Yeah. Because they literally, like, suck your soul from your body. Like, and, if you're a little kid watching that, it's going to be a little daunting to be like, oh, my God, like, they suck happiness like, from you. And then if they give you the kiss of death, they literally suck the soul from your body. So you're just like a, mindless corpse. So if you think about things like that, it is, yes, there is some childishness, like, to it. But it's really, like, even when you read the books, it's very dark in some parts. And it has some bits that, not so PG.
It was also a great experience for our family to sit down and have family, because we have family movie night where I like force my kids to watch like Edward Scissorhands or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. They really have got an appreciation for some terrible 1990s movies. However, they get their turn as well, and so we did the Harry Potter franchise. As much as I complained and had a
especially because they do go for a long time.
Yeah, it was like, because usually we'd watch 2 movies on a Friday night, and it's like, well, we're watching one of these because it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. The one thing that I really enjoyed experiencing was me guessing things that were going to happen, and my sons that have both read the books, you wait and see, you wait and see, and they were just so proud, because I finished high school in 2003. I've read 3 books since then. And so they're like, I read the new one online, and I read this, and I've read the synopsis of the new movie. So this is definitely the standout for you?
Yes, definitely. Chamber of Secrets would have to be second next, but there's no Bellatrix really in that one. So for me, I'd possibly have to say Chamber of Secrets would be my son's favourite. If he has the option to choose a Harry Potter movie, he goes straight for that one. So...
Nice. Well, tell me the rundown. So it's Philosopher's Stone.
Yep. Chamber of Secrets. Then you got Prisoner of Azkaban. Then you've got Goblet of Fire, which is the Triwizard Tournament and all that. Then you've got the Order of the Phoenix. Then you have the Half-Blood Prince. And then you have the last 2.
1 and 2
Yeah, they were split into 2.
Hallows?
Yeah, Deathly Hallows, which I did love, because obviously all the movies, because the books are quite long, and they had to just sort of take the most important parts and, put it into a movie that people would understand that hadn't read the book. But what they did with the last one was they really wanted to do it justice for the series, so they put it into 2 parts, and they just jam-packed it, and it was really good. Normally when it comes to the end of a series that you're so into, and if it's come from a book like Lord of the Rings and stuff, you need it to be on point and do it justice for you, because otherwise it's like a letdown. Like for me, like Twilight. I read the book originally, loved it. The movie came out, I wanted to tear the cinema screen up. I was like, what have they done?
I am going to put your knowledge to the test because you've totally out-nerded me on a film. I've just pulled up online a random Harry Potter quiz.
Okay.
It's only 10 questions wrong. Let's see how you go. Who killed Severus Snape? Was it A, Bellatrix Lestrange, B, Nagini? Am I saying that right? Lord Voldemort or Lucius Malfoy?
It'd be, I guess, because it was obviously Nagini is Voldemort's snake. Voldemort was the one that gave her the orders because he's the one that talks to snakes.
Is he the one behind the glass in the first movie? No, that's the girl out of...
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
So, yeah, no, it would have to... Nagini did the kill, but it was Voldemort that put the kill out. So
okay.
It was,
Who is Narcia Malfoy's sister?
that's Bellatrix.
Oh.
She calls us... this is... I used to say it to my sister, because she calls her Narcissa Sissy. So it's Sissy Malfoy. And obviously when... it's... the Deathly Hallows, part 1 of the Deathly Hallows, or it could be the Half-Blood Prince, where Sissy, obviously Malfoy's been instructed by the Dark Lord to kill Dumbledore, which is a very big task for a child to, a student of Hogwarts to do. And so Sissy goes to visit Snape and says, look, I need you to help him when he's at school. I need you to help him do this. And so they do the Unbreakable Curse, and, Bellatrix is the one that binds them together. And so, yeah, it is
I'm
Bellatrix.
terrified right now that I'm making the face that my wife makes when I tell her about the movie Speed. I'm like, and then they're on the bus, and then because I believe you, I just don't know myself. So we're going to lock in Bellatrix?
Yes.
Righty-o. What animal can Harry speak to?
Snakes.
Snakes.
Parcel mouth.
Who does Harry marry?
Harry marries Ginny. Ginny Weasley.
Ginny
so that's Ron's sister. The one from Chamber of Secrets that gets taken down into the chamber.
I thought it was Johnny. So that would have been a way cooler name. That's the new book I'm writing. How many kids does Harry have in the epilogue book 7?
Oh, I think it's either 2 or 3 because he's got one called
They're both
Severus.
options.
Yep. Then he's got one called Albus. Oh, God. Oh, that's a tricky one.
2 or 3?
I may be wrong, but I'm going to say 3 because I think Ron had 2.
Where does Hermione first see Ron? Hermione, sorry.
Hermione first sees Ron on the train where she's they're walking down the aisle saying that they're about to... I don't know if it's... Oh, she's looking
for
helping...
something.
Yeah, she's helping Neville look for the toad that he
Well,
lost.
there you go. You got it. Who do people consider loony?
Luna Lovegood. I guess who they consider her. I'm not really... her dad wrote... Oh my God, I've got a mental blank. He wrote a magazine.
It's okay. Everyone will forgive you not knowing. All right. What do people have to see to be able to see a thestral?
A dead body. So you have
really?
to see death.
So
Yep.
death. Okay.
Yep.
How does the basilisk move from one part of the school to the other?
Oh, the basilisk, yes.
That's what I said. You need to know all about...
The basilisk does that through the pipes in the walls. And that's why Harry can obviously hear him because he speaks parcel mouth and parcel tongue. So when he's obviously going through the school, he can hear the snake saying, kill, kill, kill. And obviously everyone's thinking he's crazy because they're like, well, why can't we hear it? But it's found out later he's going through the pipes.
So we're shape-shifting?
Not necessarily. The snake itself, because obviously Salazar Slytherin had his chamber when he was at the school way down in the bottom, which was the chamber that Ginny was taken to, and that's where the snake originally lives.
Your options are shape-shifting, he's invisible and no one can feel him, pipes, or blending in with students. So you said pipes.
Yep.
Awesome. So he gets really high on ice and then just stumbles across...
Well, because he lives in plumbing sort of thing. Like, it's all water and stuff down there. And it must be obviously like because they enter via a bathroom. Like
yeah.
A sink,
oh, you don't need to tell me. I know all about Harold Potter. I'm a huge fan. I know everything about it. How many different teachers of the dark arts have there been in the time that Harry's been at Hogwarts? is your final
There's
question.
Professor Quirrell, he died.
There's the dude with the giant eyeball.
Yep,
Played
Mad-Eye
by...
Moody, Professor Lupin. Oh my god, he's the really annoying one that was so in love with himself. Number 2.
1, 6, 7, 5.
I'm gonna say 5.
Here
I
we
could be wrong
go.
on that.
All right, it's figuring out.
Let's load it up.
You got 9 out of 10.
Yes.
Nicely done. Awesome. Well, there we go. That is the most Harry Potter that's ever been covered on this show. So it's...
I am happy to do that.
Yeah, I don't know why I let you. But anyway, we'll jump back into the music before we finish off the 10 films. This is 100.5 WOW FM. It is Dave's Video Graveyard talking all about Bellatrix's 10 favourite movies of all time. And right now we are talking about a movie that absolutely infuriated me to my very core. We are talking about 2014's Gone Girl, directed by Fight Club's director David Fincher. And of course, he also helmed The Zodiac, which is an amazing movie as well. However, this movie... it just drives me crazy.
It was a roller coaster. We'll put it that way. Pretty much that's one reason why I love it. I love ones that are, like, even though it's not based on true crime, it's just fascinating. Like, you always think that you know who the killer is or what's going to happen. Like, you're always guessing and trying to guess what the ending is going to be. And I would have never guessed that ending. Like, when it comes out what she's done and how she did it and the extent, the effort she put in to do it and stuff, and it's like...
But also the fact she made him look so bad that he had no choice but to go back to and go along with it. When he's actually... Because you find out the whole movie sets up that he was a borderline abusive, gaslighting husband that never looked after his wife and was always abusive and passive-aggressive. We then see things through her journal. So it's basically retold because she's gone missing. Everyone points fingers at him and, you know, it just keeps going worse and worse. Things keep pointing towards him. All this evidence shows up pointing towards him being the thing. And then right at the end, spoiler alert, it is showed that she put everything in motion and essentially did it all herself, including a super graphic murder scene with Neil Patrick Harris. So any fans of How I Met Your Mother, get on this one. It's the spiritual sequel. Played amazingly with Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike. I see Rosamund Pike in stuff and still hate her because of this movie. But it is an amazing example of turning the expectations on your head of a movie. Yeah,
like, again, because when you first start watching it, I remember the first time I watched it and, you know, I was just going along with it and I was into it and, you know, was sucked in. And then when it came out about her, you know, pre-writing the diary, draining her blood and, you know, her little notebook that she had, like, you know, drain blood, do this, buy a car, Craigslist, all that sort of thing. And it's like, oh my God.
I also liked the money going missing and her buying all that new stuff and putting it in the sister-in-law's.
The anniversary things. And also, like, her getting him to subconsciously, like, he actually did it, but he didn't realize why. Because she did it before, obviously, she did, you know, ran away. But she made him bump up her life insurance. So obviously, all things like that, if, you know, normally in a domestic violence situation or something, they're going to look at something like, okay, her life insurance was just bumped up by you and now she's dead, like, you know, all signs pointing. And she did it in a way where Missouri had the death penalty. Yep. So he wasn't just facing, you know, because she was gonna obviously her weird thing was she wanted to kill herself, but she wanted him to die first.
She already established that everyone in his life thought that he did it.
Yeah.
So, like, she'd already ruined him as a person, but she also wanted to take him down on every other level. And if anything, she's a genius.
Yeah, because, I mean, even in the end when she obviously, like, you know, kills Neil Patrick Harris and says that he kidnapped her and she's been, like, in a captive for so long, that's why she's been missing. And then obviously her going back and, like, you know, being a sadistic, crazy woman and locking him... like Ben Affleck to her again and, you know, falling pregnant and all that. And, you know, after everything that she put him through in the media and the courts and everything, and then he ends up with her. And then it's like, knowing that you have to stay with such a psycho crazy woman, that would be terrifying. And knowing that she's going to have your child as well. That's even worse.
But yeah, she basically gives him no choice because it's either you take me back and I vindicate you for what you've done, or you don't, and I sail you up the river. Like, oh man, what a film.
It was a very, if anything, like the film itself, I very much see why men would be like not a fan of it. But for me, it's like about the writers, almost like Breaking Bad. Like, the storylines aren't things that necessarily people would agree with, but for someone to have written it and so well, it's a very smart mind to be able to put that together and be like, and make it into a movie. And it's just fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Awesome. Well, that's a fantastic choice. Now, moving on to your next choice on this evening's list, you've gone for an absolute classic from the 90s, directed by Martin Scorsese. We are talking about Goodfellas, the most chosen movie in the history of this show.
I would not blame it, or it's not surprising to me because it is obviously, it goes for a very long time, but it's one of those movies I can suggest to people and they'll be happy to watch all 2.5 hours of it pretty much. But for me, it was a toss-up between Goodfellas and Casino because I absolutely love them both. But I really love Goodfellas for the fact that it is based on Henry Hill's life. Obviously, it's embellished a little bit. But after watching that movie, I had to go and look up Henry Hill and his real time in the mob and what happened.
He ended up getting kicked out of protective custody because he kept ringing the Howard Stern show and telling his story. His book, that was the story of, I believe it's My Blue Heaven, was the story of Goodfellas. Yep. Also got made into a Steve Martin movie called My Blue Heaven about what he did after he was in police protection, because he just kept tempting.
Yeah, I mean, you even sort of get the gist of it. That he found it very hard when he had to part with that life to going back to being a regular schmuck, as he referred to it. But
they also nailed what a whinging bitch he was, in the sense that they were like, all he's worried about is he can't get good Italian food.
Yeah, and another thing was he sort of it shows how he did it to himself almost. Like, he didn't have to go and use his product that he was selling and stuff and go and rip off, the bosses and stuff. And he did it. And so he just sort of spiraled downwards. And, I guess a lot of them would have back in those days. It was the
classic story of thinking he was too big to fail.
Yeah, exactly. Like a Scarface sort of thing, So I loved that one.
Now, your next choice is no surprise that anyone's that's listened to this evening's show. Back in 2012, a movie all about a true crime author moving to an essentially haunted house. We are talking about Sinister. What a terrifying film.
I love it. And again, because when I first watched it, I didn't have kids. So it was fine that, little daughter went and did what she did. But for me, it was almost same with the same sort of storyline of Gone Girl. You just did not expect that ending. Like, I was trying to guess who the killer was and all these sorts of things. And you're watching all these tapes that he's found up in the attic. And, he tries to burn them and they reappear and all that sort of thing. And even just the son and, his night terrors that he has.
The home videos as well. Terrifying.
And the way it was filmed, and obviously when you're watching you're thinking, it's an adult, that's a, and then when you find out it was kids, and obviously the lawnmower scene with the little girl runs over her parents' faces with lawnmowers, and then obviously a kid drowns their family in a pool, and then the other, they tie them up in a car and burn the car, and it's like all the while at the end when the camera turns and it shows who's filming it, and it's a kid just standing there with this crazy ass look on their face, and it's like, okay, I don't want to get on my kids' bad side.
Oh, such a spooky movie, and honestly, a good reason not to have kids.
Yeah. I mean, if you're very scared, because it's one of those things where she seemed so innocent, absolutely so innocent, and for it to be her, that's why I was super shocked. Obviously, you sort of got a little bit of a gist when she had that girl. When I think it was the dad walked in and just checked on her when she was sleeping, and obviously she was wide awake, staring at the wall, and the girl was there. And so you sort of got a little bit, but you just didn't expect it to turn around and just, bam, she's just drugged her dad, and he reads that note, and it's like, whoa, literally everything just dropped down. I was not expecting that, but that is amazing.
I just wish the character went, wait. Can I write this into my book that I'm trying to write? Because this is amazing. Yeah, so terrifying though.
It's good. Awesome. I also love how obviously they didn't want him in the town because of but he did. even him as a true crime writer, he uncovered a crime that wasn't properly solved to begin with, and that's why he wanted to try and do it again.
Nice. Now, your final choice was a bit of an error on both our behalf because neither of us can count to 10, apparently. You decided to pick a variety of films, all covering one of your favourite subjects ever.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us the subject?
Okay, so the last one, the subject of the last movie is obviously Marilyn Monroe. I guess I'm all about women empowerment and stuff. And I love Marilyn Monroe and her entire story about her life. You know, she struggled so much, but she also accomplished so much. And my favorite movie, I have so many. I love even like the 70 Itch and that, but the ultimate one is Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, because like it is one of the most iconic ones of hers. A lot of people get it confused, obviously, with that iconic image of her over the subway grate where the wind's blowing up in the white dress.
Yep.
Like that comes from the 70 Itch. So people like think that it's that movie. It's like, no, actually, like the Gentlemen Prefer Blondes is her hot pink outfit, and you know, so. I love that one, and I love the fact that she got to finally be put with an actress such as Jane Russell, who in that time was very well respected. She was a brunette, and brunettes back in that day did receive a lot more respect than the blondes.
Yep.
And all Marilyn Monroe, she was very talented. She worked really hard, and all she ever really wanted to do was be taken seriously. She wanted some serious roles, and people like Jane Russell seen that, and they seen that Marilyn Monroe doubted herself too much, and they were just like, you need to believe in yourself more. You've got this pure talent and you can do it. Don't listen to those men in, you know, Hollywood telling you not to do this and just do that. And she ended up making her own production company, and yeah, she just stuck it to Fox, and she was the first female that did that and won.
Yeah, that is so awesome. And obviously her life ended quite tragically and early. But yeah.
And debatably, whether it be, suicide or murder.
There is a lot to look into there. Love a good conspiracy when it comes to true crime. Believe it or not, that is all the time we have this evening, and that is the 10 favourite films of Bellatrix. Once again, where can everyone check out your amazing work?
You can check out my amazing work on Instagram. It's at the official Bellatrix. Trixx having 2 eyes, just to be tricky in there.
All my favourite people have 2 eyes.
So, yeah, you can check out all my stuff on there. I do have a page on Facebook. However, the best stuff is shared on Instagram. So check me out there and follow it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and scaring us and teaching us all about Harry Potter, my new favourite movies of all time. I'm happy to do that any time of day. Awesome. Don't forget to stick around. Krez is on his way into the studio. This is 100.5 WOWFM.